All right. Well, nowadays we're back. It's the morning show. It's 7:25. It's Wednesday. Time for part 2 of our Wise Guy segment. Matt Selner, our U of I physics professor, rejoins us. We talk more about CO2, gasification, and the whole Futuregen plant.
Right. So we have to sneak a little physics into all this too. So the CO2 part is kind of the hook for all the physics. Now this coal gasification idea has been around for 100 years. It's not new. People have known how to do that to generate fuels and stuff for a long time. Of course, burning things to make power, that's not new. The thing that's kind of new about this plant is that they're going to do this without having emissions. All right, so you can get rid of the ash and all that stuff in a very clever way, and the volatiles in a clever way. The CO2 is a little harder, so what they do is they liquefy it and they pump it into the ground. Okay. And the supercritical CO2 that you get when you pressurize CO2 and put it down there has some very interesting properties. It's kind of like a liquid, it's kind of like a gas, and it's an amazingly good solvent. So the oil industry has known this for a long time, and they pump liquefied CO2 into oil wells to get to clean it out, to get the last of the oil out. You get a lot of oil that way. Okay. Now, CO2 by itself has some interesting properties, and so what I have here is a big aquarium full of it. Sure. And it's easy to make CO2 because all you have to do is you can get some vinegar and baking soda and make it at home, because the gas that comes off of that reaction is CO2. Here I just have some dry ice because I didn't want to make a mess with vinegar. Right. And so I just put some dry ice in here, and it emits CO2. And notice what happens. CO2 actually is heavier than air. Think of air as either nitrogen or oxygen as a pair. Sure. CO2 is like oxygen, O2, like the stuff we breathe, plus a carbon, so it's just heavier. Mm-hmm. So it will sit lower than everything else. As the gas, it's heavier. And so what that means is that it will sit at the bottom, and it'll sort of stay inside a bowl. So I can, in this bowl, I have CO2. Watch what happens if I tip it out. Oops. What?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go like
Gonna
this.
burn yourself.
There we go. So this stuff had come out of this bowl. So basically what happens is the CO2 sits below there, it's displaced the air, and it makes the flame go out. I can illustrate this a little better. I'm going to scoop some of it out so that it's maybe only half full of CO2, and take some bubbles, blow some bubbles in there.
There you go.
There we go. See how they kind of hover?
Kind of hovering.
Yeah. And so the CO2 is about, the top of it is about at that level. Right. And so you can do this stuff yourself at home. You can get a little bowl, okay, put some baking soda and vinegar in the bottom, blow a bubble, and you'll see it kind of hovering. And so while CO2 itself is not a dangerous gas, what it does is it will displace air. So you don't want to be in a room that's just full of CO2, because then you would just suffocate. It wouldn't be a poison or anything like that, because CO2 is always in your lungs, is what you breathe out. But you have to be a little careful of the stuff if you get too much of it in one place. Okay, so that's something you can do at home. And I want to do this again. So I want you to light a match.
All right, we got about 45 seconds.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to scoop some CO2 out of here, like this.
Perfect.
Okay, so you see that it's even though it's invisible, you can sort of scoop it, and when you stuck your nose in here earlier to smell the stuff, you could really notice it,
you can tell a difference, so don't do that at home.
Yeah, so anyway, that's the key to this power plant. Make the CO2 go away.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks, and hopefully those folks are listening out there at Futuregen. You never know. Yeah.
I think they should.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Well, if you have any questions or suggestions for Matt, you can send them to us at themorningshow@wci.com or get on his website, wiseguy.net. We'll be back right after this.